Hello and welcome to jasonnewland.com. My name is Jason Newland. Please only listen when you can safely close your eyes. This is Let Me Bore You to Sleep, Thursday edition. What could that mean? What could that mean? It could mean that it's... I've got to check this because I forgot the name of it. It is Thursday Throwbacks. TV shows 1987. So this is the 8th one we've done. I'm impressed. And it's also Let Me Bore You to Sleep, or LMBYTS, number 1515. And earlier today, I also did a sleep hypnosis recording called Something Shifts. And it's 31 minutes duration, but there's also the other 5 versions with music, 5 hours, 10 hours. All my recordings are uploaded automatically to YouTube, as well as all the main podcast apps, including Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all that stuff. And also automatically uploaded to my website, jasonnewland.com. So you can stream them or you can actually download them from my website. Yeah. So I'm just thinking, oh yeah, it's Q&A Friday tomorrow. I've only currently got 2 questions on my Q&A Friday to answer. So if you do have any questions, please go to my Facebook group, which is Jason Newland's Boring Group, and add a question, please. So that I've got more than 2 questions to answer. Right. What I thought I'd do before I start, just have a look at find some quirky stories for the day. In Japan, in a small rural town, a commuter kept standing in the same spot every morning waiting for his train. Over time, locals assumed he was some kind of official greeter or mascot. Children waved, tourists took photos, and eventually the station staff leaned into it and gave him a badge that simply read "Good morning." He still insists he's just still waiting for the train. Did he get on the train? I mean, did he just stand there all day? Maybe he was a train spotter and they don't have them in Japan. He might be the only train spotter in Japan. Who knows? Maybe he wants to leave the area, but he's not quite sure, hasn't quite made his mind up. Maybe he enjoys the attention. He's made a lot of new friends. People sticking badges on him. I mean, yeah. This is in England. A British village has a large decorative spoon mounted outside a cafe, and it keeps disappearing. Every few months it turns up somewhere new, tied to a lamppost, balanced on a bus stop, once propped against a local church. No one knows who's doing it. Well, the people who are doing it know who's doing it. And the cafe owner says, "At this point, we just let the spoon live its own life." I added my own accent then. Hard to tell accents from text, isn't it? And this one says in Canada, doorbell cameras in a quiet Canadian neighbourhood recently captured a bear repeatedly ringing the doorbells, then waiting calmly and patiently. Residents were baffled until wildlife officers suggested that the bear had learned that doors sometimes open and food sometimes appears. Yeah. To them. So if they ring the doorbell and you answer the door, then food has appeared to them, hasn't it? Which is very scary. Apparently the bear has been dubbed Sir Ring-a-Lot. I don't know if any of this is true. It might just be made up. In France, a French man was briefly stopped by local officials for obstructing the pavement while walking his pet snail on a lead. This can't be true, surely. The warning was later withdrawn after public amusement, and the snail now has its own social media page. Its bio reads, "I'm doing my best." I don't know. I mean, it doesn't sound very likely, does it, that would be true? I mean, you can't have imagine taking a snail to court. How would that hold up? Oh, you're walking too slowly. Australia. During a virtual court hearing, a magistrate paused proceedings after hearing repeated interruptions. The culprit turned out to be a parrot, loudly repeating phrases like objection, objection, and you're out of order. The parrot belonged to one of the lawyers. The hearing resumed after the bird was relocated to another room. Still shouting. That would be a bit off-putting. There was... When I worked in Churchill, and I think this is pretty much the first month I worked there, one of my colleagues got sacked. So he was on the phone, went through the whole call, and there was a lot of noise in the background. And he said at the end of it, I think she bought the car insurance, and he said, "Can I ask you a question?" He said, "What? Have you got a parrot in the background? Is that a parrot in the background?" And so she said, "No, that's my son." She phoned up the company and he got sacked. So, yeah, you have to be careful what you say sometimes. I mean, he wasn't even like being humorous, he just genuinely thought he sounded like a parrot. The person. Because they can be quite noisy, can't they, parrots? I actually knew someone that had a parrot. Massive. They're big old birds. An Italian grandmother accidentally left a public online review for her family's restaurant, giving it 2 stars. That's funny. Her comment read, "Too noisy, pasta slightly overcooked, portions small." When asked why she did it, she said, "If they want the 5 stars, they must earn them." Wow. We all need a grandmother like that. Oh, more tomorrow. I just thought I'd just see what weird news is in the news. So, this is 1987. Should we do a little body scan before we start? Just a quick one, not like a one that I'm going to go on and on for an hour and a half. So I'm just going to assume that you're sitting in a chair that supports your body, or lying on a bed or some flat surface. don't have to close your eyes for this, but of course, only listen to this recording when you can safely close your eyes anyway. So I'm going to say to start with, just focus on your eyes, on your eyelids. Just notice how your eyelids feel. Maybe you can see through your eyelids if you're in a lit room, or perhaps, you're in a dark room and you can't see anything. And I'd like you just to look up with your eyelids, almost like you're looking up into your forehead, and then relax your eyes. And then do it again, hold it for a couple of seconds, and then relax your eyes. One more time, looking up, and then relaxing your eyes. Now moving down to your jaw. Just open your mouth as wide as it goes comfortably. Hold it for a couple of seconds, and just relax it. Again, just a couple of seconds, and relax it. And we're not straining anything, it's just gentle movements. One more time, and relax your jaw. Now just scrunch up your face. Like you're making a weird face. Like you do maybe if you're making a face at a kid on a bus, or your own kid maybe, and just that kind of face. And just hold it for a couple of seconds and then relax. And hold it for a couple of seconds and relax. One more time. And relax. Now focus on the back of your neck. Maybe if you can, just look up gently and move your neck from side to side if you can. Just gently moving your head around, very gently, so that you can feel your throat, the sides of your neck, the back of your neck. Only do this if your neck feels fine. And that goes for all of your body. Don't move any part of your body or tense a part of your body if you have any kind of physical issues. Now focusing on your shoulders, what you could do is just lift your shoulders up. Gently hold it for a couple of seconds and just let them drop. Lift them up again. Gently, slowly, 1, 2, and let them drop. One more time. 1, 2, and let them drop. And you can focus on your hands and your arms. If you like, if you're able to, you could put your hands together and just push gently and hold for 2 seconds, which will actually stimulate all the muscles in your arms and your shoulders and your fingers and your wrists and your elbows all at the same time, in your hands. Hold it for 2, 1, 2, and relax. And just let them drop to your lap or to the side of you on your bed. And you might not want to actually do that again because your arms feel so comfortable, but let's do it another time. And just pushing your hands together, 1, 2, and relax. One more time, 1, 2, and relax. So you may have felt that in your chest, in your stomach, and maybe even in your back. going to just take a breath, maybe an exaggerated breath, just for the sake of stretching your chest and your back. Hold for a second, 1, 2, and let go. 1, 2, and let go. 1, 2, and let go. And you can feel that in your chest, your upper back, in the middle of your back. So now what you could do in order to get in touch with your stomach and your lower back, maybe just twist your body ever so slightly to the left and to the right, holding for 1, 2, then moving to the other side, 1, 2, but only gently and only if it's safe to do this. 1, 2, and every time just allow it to relax. And maybe if you can just make your abdominal muscles tense. Again, gently. You're not performing on a bodybuilding contest on stage. It's just hold it for a couple of seconds. 1, 2. Relax. 1, 2. And relax. 1, 2. And relax. And now, focusing on your buttocks. If you can, just tense both your buttocks. 1, 2, and relax. 1, 2, and relax. 1, 2, and relax. And you can just focus on your groin area. Just notice the comfort in your whole midsection between your hips and your thighs. As you focus on your thighs now, and just tense your thighs up. 1, 2, and relax. 1, 2, relax. 1, 2, relax. And now focusing on your calf muscles, tensing your calf muscles gently. 1, 2, relax. 1, 2, and relax. 1, 2, and relax. Lastly, if it's okay to do so and your feet are okay, just scrunch up your feet. Almost like if it was your hands and you were holding something. Do that with your feet if it feels comfortable to do that. And just hold it. 1, 2, and relax. 1, 2, and relax. 1, 2, and relax. I was going to say a bit like a gorilla eating a banana, but you don't have to really have that image, because it's just about relaxing the different parts of your body. No fruit is involved, really. What we're going to do now is focus on your brain. And by focusing on your brain, I'm just going to ask you to focus on your scalp. That whole area from your eyebrows up all the way down across your scalp to the bottom where the back of your neck starts, and the sides where your ears are. And just move your eyebrows up if you have eyebrows. If you don't, just that area where eyebrows may have been. And as you do that, just hold in 1, 2 and relax. Because that relaxes your forehead, it gives that signal to your brain. It's already there, to be fair, because you've been going through your body. And any feelings you have is caused by your brain anyway. And your brain knows that you wish to be relaxed, and maybe you wish to be sleepy, which is why you're listening to this Let Me Bore You to Sleep recording. Pushing your eyebrows up again. 1, 2, and relax. And you may sense a level of lightness in your head. A nice feeling of some kind of release. In fact, your ears might feel clearer. For no reason really, they're just, it's like everything's well oiled, everything's kind of in tune with itself. And pushing your eyebrows up again. 1, 2, and relax. And lastly, as you focus on your mind, just notice any other internal chatter that might be going on outside of my voice. So what else do you hear other than me? Apart from maybe some background sounds. I mean, on my side I've got rain outside, I've got the window open. Vinny's asleep on the floor by my foot. There's a bit of traffic in the background, so I can hear those things. Maybe you've got some background sounds yourself. But what else is going on in your mind? Maybe what you can do is just go and open a window. Let some fresh air into your mind. Let the dust out. Let the stuffiness out. Let any remaining negativity out of that window. And just allow that breeze to enter, purifying the air, clearing your mind, relaxing your mind. And the more that relaxes, the more your body relaxes, and that'll just keep going as I continue with this recording. So I'm just going to continue talking about the 1987. So, BBC Inspector Morse pilot, January 1987. So Inspector Morse became one of the most loved British detective dramas ever. It really did. It was a huge show. I saw it, but I wasn't really, never really been that into detective shows so much. But that show was more, I think it was more about the person as opposed to like some clever criminology. It was seen to be more about him, his life, his, like everything. So it was a powerful drama. And then we had French and Saunders, BBC Two, debuted September 1987. Alternative sketch comedy hits the mainstream. Okay. Wogan, rebranded nightly chat show, begins January 1987. How did they rebrand it? Because it was on anyway. Did they? I'm sure it was something like the Terry Wogan Show. Now they just changed it to Wogan. And in my memory, it's the same format. It was a chat show. He interviewed famous people that had books out and albums out and tours and just made a new film, that kind of stuff, just standard stuff. And then he would perhaps have a singer come and do some music. So, and I'm not sure when, but I'm pretty sure at one point it used to be on, maybe not 87, but at one point, during the run of Wogan, it was on 5 nights a week at 7 o'clock, I do believe. I know there was the Wogan Show, or whatever it was originally called, in 1986, because I saw Whitney Houston singing Saving All My Love For You, which was her first hit, wasn't it? I think she was like 17 or 18 at the time. I loved Whitney Houston. Me and about 5 billion other people. Did I ever tell you my Whitney Houston story? Well, I'm about to now. In 1990, so I was 19, I was staying at my dad's house for a little while, and I was working night shift in a meter factory. And it worked out quite well because I hardly ever saw him. He hardly ever saw me, so we didn't get on each other's nerves. And at the weekends, he was with his future wife. He'd stay with her. So I'd have the house to myself, which was nice. I could just watch TV and just have a chill out like evening on a Saturday night and Saturday night, because I'd be working Friday night, wouldn't I? And then Sunday night, and then I'd work again Monday night. So I was watching, I'm pretty sure, it might not have been, though, I'm pretty sure it was Wogan. But I'm thinking if it was a Saturday night, although it might have been a weekday night, but if it was a weekday night, I didn't start work till 10 o'clock, did I? So there's a good chance I might have been watching it like at 7. Ooh. Anyway, Whitney Houston was on there, and she was singing I Want to Dance With Somebody, I Want to Be With Somebody, that song. And because I love her, I phoned up the BBC TV studios in London. I think it was in London at the time. It might have been in Manchester or somewhere, I can't remember. Anyway, I got the number from Director Inquiries, And I phoned up and I said, hello. And I said, yeah, hi, can I speak to Whitney, please? They said, what? I said, can I speak to Whitney? Whitney who? I said, Whitney who? Oh dear, Whitney Houston. She said, what? This is a true story. I said, yeah, can I speak to Whitney Houston, please? Because I figured that I might as well just give her a call, see how she is, ask if she wants to go out for a meal or, go for a drink or something. But they wouldn't let me speak to her. I mean, she made out, no, she's not here. I'm in an office. She's in a studio. Like, what? Who is this? I said, it's me. It's Jason. She said, okay. That's another thing I realised back then. You can't assume that everyone knows who you are. I think the problem is, at the time, I was living in a little town, and sometimes I think it feels like you know everybody, and everybody knows your name, kind of, or they know at least by sight. Not everybody, but sometimes it feels like that. When you're at school and you see the same people every day for like 5 years. But no, she didn't know who I was. My reputation had not preceded me on this particular occasion. So we never got to go out. That was my I nearly dated Whitney Houston story. The Ritz, the late night stand-up comedy showcase. I don't remember that. That was on BBC Two. But this is 87. So that's the thing. In 1987, depending on when it was, 87... Yeah, from I think March 1987 to about March 1988 or February 1988, I was living in the flat above the chip shop. So I did watch telly at night. I mean, every night. But I would also be working till about, I wonder what time the chip shop closed. Was it 10 o'clock? Or was it 9 o'clock? I can't remember. I think it might have been 10. And there'd be another half an hour. Or maybe it was 9. There was another half an hour of cleaning up. So I was getting home at either 9:30 or 10:30. I think it might have been 9:30. But it might have been 10:30. But I didn't have to travel far, did I? Which is quite good. Although I did make it quite difficult to skive off. Made it even harder because I could phone in and say, yeah, I can't come in today. Then I'd have to figure a way of getting out of the building without them seeing me. And then I could go to the beach, sunbathing. Technically that would work, but unfortunately the only phone was in the actual chip shop, so I had to go in there and phone using their phone. And then I'd have to hand the phone to my boss saying, there's someone on the phone, who is it? It's me. And it just got awkward because it didn't work. It kind of... At one point I did feel like, I think I made a little recording. Hi boss, I'm not well, I can't come in today. And I did a little tape recording and they just, can you hand it, put it through a letterbox and just give this to someone to listen to. Apparently that's not the professional way to do things. Mind you, my opinion used to be, if you want me to be professional, give me a profession. Let me work in a profession. I remember years ago when I worked in a nightclub, the doorman was saying, they were talking. So I just walked up because, I was also working in that little area. And they said, oh, we're having a private conversation. I said, well, go somewhere private. That's what I literally said, well, go somewhere private then. Which is probably not a good thing to say to suit two massive doormen. But like, if you want to have a private conversation, go somewhere private. Don't do it in public, because I'm going to listen. Even if you go somewhere private, I'm going to try and listen. In fact, I didn't even care what you were talking about until you told me that you were having a private conversation. And now it's my life's ambition to find out what the subject matter is. I was a weird young man. So the Ritz, I might Google that and have a little look on YouTube, maybe see if there's what comedy was out. There wasn't a lot of stand-up comedy around in them days, on TV I mean. But it'd be interesting to see. I reckon Joe Brand would have been on there. Hayden Pace. Trying to think. A few different ones, but there wasn't huge amounts of stand-up comedy in this country. Because even though Jimmy Carr said the other day on a podcast, a video podcast on YouTube, that stand-up comedy started in America in the late 70s with George Carlin and Richard Pryor. No, it didn't. It didn't. I mean, if anything, the most famous, infamous, possibly, stand-up comedian was Lenny Bruce in the 60s. And stand-up comedy was rife in the 50s. 20-odd years before. It was vaudeville before that. So, people going on stage doing comedy shows and doing one-liners, and America was so far ahead of the UK by decades when it came to stand-up comedy. Because in the 80s, there were still comedians on TV telling mother-in-law jokes. Although there was a few ones I remember when I was a little kid in the early 80s that were quite alternative. There was some bloke, he dressed up like a caricature escaped prisoner, like a striped top on, kind of that you get in the Buster Keaton movies, that kind of thing. And he kept saying, spook. And that's kind of all he did. He'd talk, a little bit like a mime artist as well, and he had white makeup. And he's like, it was funny. And he used to be, well, I was a kid and I found it funny. And he'd be on like TV shows, the Saturday night shows, the kids shows. There was another comedian. I've got to look this up for you. Because if genuinely, right, if I couldn't prove this, you might think I'm just lying. Right, okay. Stand up, okay. So I'm even Googling it and it's not coming up. There was a stand-up comedian I can't find it. He came on stage with a brick. So that was it. And I put in stand-up comedian with a brick, 1980s. please come up. Oh, Pauline Patricia. No, it was a man. Definitely a man. Right. I mean, genuinely, he came on stage. Did I imagine it? There was a comedian came on stage with a brick, and it was a ventriloquist act, I do believe, and he'd ask it questions and it wouldn't say anything, and I think he'd look at the audience after about 5 minutes saying, "What do you expect? It's a brick." It was something like that, but you don't believe anything I say, do you? It's true. It's true. This really did happen. I'm trying to think of any other weird... Oh, there were some funny ones, but they were kind of like in a sort of kind of children's entertainment. But Keith Harris and Orville, now, huge stars in the UK. Orville had a #1 hit with "I Wish I Could Fly." I won't do it because it means singing, and some people don't want to hear me singing. I saw the petition online. Honestly, 7,000 votes. It's not fair. And he had a few different characters, but the main two were Orville and Cuddles. Cuddles was a monkey, an orangutan, and Orville was a little green duck. Very funny. And it was, I mean, I was a kid, so it's hard to know if it would have been funny as an adult or not. But it was family entertainment, and it was brilliant. I loved it. And I actually got to see Keith Harris and Orville and Cuddles in the flesh at a TV show recording that I went to, which was Rolf Harris TV show. And I was more excited to see Keith Harris, well, Orville, really. I loved Cuddles as well. His catchphrase was, "I hate that duck." And Orville's catchphrase was, I don't know what his catchphrase was. What was Orville's catchphrase? What was Orville's catchphrase? Porville's? Who's Porville? What was Orville's catchphrase? "I wish I could fly." Yeah, but that was a song. "I wish I could fly right up to the sky, but I can't." It's Orville's song. But the thing is, like Cuddles didn't really... It was very weird. He didn't get on with Orville, but I think it was because Orville got so much of the attention. You know, there was more puppets than just them two, but they were the two main ones. They were the most popular ones. But Orville, I mean, really, Cuddles was funnier. He was a very anarchic character and more playful and had more to say. But Orville was very cute. I mean, really, in a way, he was cuddlier than Cuddles. Although Cuddles had very long arms, so I imagine he'd be a pretty nice cuddler. He'd be able to wrap himself around you about 5 times, which is a big exaggeration. Oh, yeah. I don't know. I think he used to wear a nappy. That's it. Not Keith Harris, the duck, Orville. I loved that show. And he had his own show, and it was famous. And I think with stuff like that, if you get to be really famous, it might not last long, but you've got to kind of, I think, you need to enjoy it. And I saw a documentary, I don't know if it's true or not, but they were saying, oh, Keith Harris, he kept hunting for that fame again. He wanted to be really famous again, and I don't know if it's true or not, but it's like, leave the man alone. I mean, 1947, 57, 67, 77. So, he was like in his late 30s when I met him. When I didn't meet him, but when I saw him, I thought it was brilliant. I loved Keith Harris. I loved Orville. Cuddles was good. I think he was a bit too much of a cheeky monkey. If you can, yeah. I can't think of any other stand-up comedians that were particularly weird. There was Spit the Dog. So even though they were comedians, they didn't do mother-in-law jokes. They didn't do the stuff that you would, they were mainstream, but not really. If you've got like Little and Large, Cannonball, those comedians, it was all about two people together making fun of each other, or one straight man, and one of them trying to sing and the other one interrupting them, and it's funny. And I've seen equivalencies or like similar kind of acts on the alternative circuit, which was no different, in a sense of it's two people together making the audience laugh. So there's not really a lot of difference in some ways between mainstream comedy and alternative comedy, although alternative comedy's no longer that, because that started in the late 70s and we're now in 2025. So I don't know what the latest comedy would be called. Would it be called woke comedy? I don't know. I've got no idea. It's kind of weird because some of the so-called woke comedians are super funny. They're just not cruel. It's just not really that they're woke. It's just if people have different acts. I mean, Michael McIntyre, I don't know if he swears in his live shows, but he doesn't on TV as far as I know. And he's a mainstream entertainer. But he's not, I don't know what I'm trying to say. What am I trying to say? Anyone? Everyone? Anyone? I don't know. It's just comedy, isn't it? I think really if a woke comedian would just be someone that I would say that's very careful about what they say, maybe. I mean, there was this, it's weird, I've seen a woke female comedian who's quite famous, sells out shows, sells out arenas and stuff. And I've seen her on two different occasions, and the way she was presented did affect how I viewed her. The build-up was so negative on one of them that I didn't find her funny. And then I saw another one, and I didn't realise it's like a year later, and it was like a normal comedy show, I think at the Apollo or whatever, in London. The cat, I don't know, where is it, wherever, anyway. And she was great. And I realised it was the same person. So my judgment was being clouded by the constant negativity of the person introducing them, because it was like an anti-woke video channel, whatever it was. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Because I remember I was looking forward for ages to go and see the Simpson movie. And a friend that I was living with told me negative things about it. And I didn't want to watch it then. He just ruined it for me. I mean, let me make my own mind up. That's why I don't watch movie reviews. I used to when I was younger, but like when I was in my teens, early 20s maybe, I don't want to review about a movie. Maybe do the review after I've watched it. But I don't, there's movies that I've watched that I've really liked that have been slated by, these, whatever you want to call them, critics. I know that they're there to sell movies and stuff, but you know what I mean? I remember I used to watch, this was a song panel, like I think it was once a week on a Wednesday night. This is about 1987, so it probably won't be on here. I bet it won't be on here, no. Let's have a look. Nope. But I don't remember what it's called. And I think there'd be 3 people on a panel, and they'd all watch a video of a latest song that hadn't yet been released or had just been released. And they'd say whether they liked it or whether they'd give it like a mark out of 10. And I used to watch it every week because I found it interesting. Because first of all, you get to see the new song, the video of the new song, and that I might not have got to see otherwise, because this was, I don't know if this was an American show or not. I can't remember. I think it might have been. What I do remember is one of the songs being on there, the video, was Alphabet Street by Prince. See, what date did that come out? Alphabet Street. Alphabet Street. Ooh, ooh. What? How weird. So, Alphabet Street. How strange it's not coming. Prince. Alphabet Street Prince. That's what I want to do. Oh, 1988. Oh, that was at a tour. Alphabet Street. Okay, right. So, I bought that album just because of the song, and I didn't like the album. I didn't like the album. I didn't hate the album, but I didn't like the album. But is it the same? Love Sexy. So Alphabet Street was released, reached the top 10 in both the UK and the US. date was it released? December the 30th, 1987. Okay, well, pretty much 87, but I recorded December the 30th, 1987. So New Year's, the day before New Year's, released April 1988. I definitely saw it. I don't think I was still living upstairs in April 88 above the chip shop, but that's where I definitely saw it there. And I remember because it was so unusual of a video. Like, I'm going down to Alphabet Street, I'm gonna frown. The first girl that I meet, to make a better day. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, love sexy. The thing is, right, the tracks, I think I did buy it. The problem is, I bought the album in 1987. So he was very prolific, wasn't he? The old Sign of the Times. Wow, look at that. So, Sign of the Times, 1987, Love Sexy, 88, Batman, 1989. So, I bought Sign of the Times because I loved that song. I mean, I loved that at the time. Absolutely loved it. According to this, there's 4 sides, really? Original album, Sign of Times, Plain the Sunshine, Housequake, The Ballad of Dorothy Parker, Record 1, Side 2, It, Starfish and Coffee, Slow Love, Hot Thing, Forever in My Life, Record 2, Side 3, You Got the Look, great song, love that song as well. If I Was Your Girlfriend, Would You Let Me Dress You? I was going to say didn't like that song, but I didn't like that album, but there's some really good songs on there. The Cross, It's Going to Be a Beautiful Night, Adore. I wonder if that's the same. Let's say it's the same song that. No, it's not. Anyway, I really liked that song though, Sign of the Times. I don't know why I was thinking about that, it just reminded me. Okay, right, so A Very Peculiar Practice, BBC Two. This is David Leland, campus drama comedy. I don't remember. No, do I? The title sounds familiar, but the scenario doesn't. Brum, not yet, groundwork era for BBC regional kids content. No, I didn't see that. That wouldn't have been in my area if it was regional. Oh, London's Burning. ITV. It was a TV film aired in 1986, but the TV series officially launched in 1987. It was a fire service drama, and yeah, I loved that show. I loved it. I watched it until it finished. Basically, I'm pretty sure it used to be on a Sunday night. Weird thing is, I actually, and this was in the early 90s, I think. Maybe 89, early 90s. When I was living in London, I was working at this place, and at the weekend, London's Burning were recording in one of the big freezers. And I remember seeing it, and they had I think a couple of people were actually who worked there on the screen, because they were driving forklifts. And it was basically, it was very similar to Casualty, in the sense of at the beginning of every episode an accident happened, and then the rest of the episode was about that accident. And with Casualty, it's a case of getting to hospital, but with the fire service it was more complicated, and all that stuff. So it was kind of weird seeing where I worked on the screen. It's a shame they didn't want me to be in it, because I might have been, I don't know, quite a good fireman. Do you mean firefighter? Yeah, I do. I was too short to really do any of those kinds of jobs when I was a kid, because like now, height doesn't seem to be a restriction. But when I left school in 1986, couldn't be a policeman, couldn't be a fireman. There were certain jobs I couldn't even apply for. I mean, there were certain jobs even females could not apply for back then, that wasn't allowed in 1986. And not that I would have made a good policeman, because I just don't think I'd have been very good at it, even if I had been tall enough. I don't know. I mean, I've got 3 cousins that are police, or were police. One's a policeman, one, I think 2 were military police, but they were like 6'6", 6'7", so they kind of had a good. It's good to have a bit of size doing that kind of work. It's not compulsory, obviously, but it's, I've seen it in action. When I lived in Ireland, there was this big street bus stop, and everyone was like, it was weird, but everyone was kind of I'm going to use the word dancing. Everyone was dancing with each other, so it was chaotic. And then the police turned up, or the Gardaí, I think they call it over there, and each one of them was the size of two men. Honestly, they were just huge, and that was enough. Everyone just stopped doing what they were doing. Not one arrest, because they were just massive. It's almost like they chose the biggest people in the town and gave them a costume to wear. Fortunes of War. Oh yeah, the reason I wanted to be a fireman is because when I did work experience when I was about 14, maybe? Yeah, 14. I did work experience at a building firm, and I loved it. Really, really liked it. All aspects of it, because no one was shouting at me. No one was criticising me. And it's just like, it was the first piece of freedom I'd ever felt. Because I had 2 weeks where I didn't have to go to school, and I was in this little building firm. They had a chippy upstairs, so there was not a chip shop, but a carpenter upstairs that was making doors and window frames and stuff. And they had a plasterer, they had a bricklayer, and I basically did different things. So I spent a day with the carpenter. I did a day with the plasterer. I did a day, did a bit of bricklaying. I mean, I kind of wish I'd gone down that road. Just got an apprenticeship with him, maybe. I mean, the bloke lived opposite me. He kept going on about smelly fingers. I don't really know what he was on about, but I kept. Why? It seemed weird. I wanted to kind of say to him, like, when I leave school, can I be your apprentice? But he kept asking me to sniff his finger. It's weird, very strange. But he's a funny bloke. And it seemed like it was something that I'd be potentially quite good at. I don't know. I mean, I just think maybe. But it definitely would have been a good start to a career for someone like myself that left school with no qualifications, and being a bricklayer would have been a good paid job once I was qualified, and it would set me up for life, wouldn't it? It'd be a career. But I did go back there when I left school, or when it was time to leave school. I went back to the firm. It was called LMBYTS Builders. I just remembered it. How crazy is that? I wonder if it's... Right, okay, no, it does. I know it doesn't exist anymore because it's shut down a long time ago. But I went in there because they seemed to like me, and I liked them. And he did say, when it's time for you to leave school, come and have a word with us. Because I was very, willing to do stuff. I didn't mind getting dirty, just like, I don't mean that like they got me rolling around in the mud. Pretend you're a hippo. None of that kind of weird stuff. Pretend you're a hippo. Smell my finger. No, that was weird. But I liked them. But I did go there, and they said, no, sorry, we've got no work. And they were closed within about 6 months or to a year after that. There was nothing to stop me from, I don't know, looking, going to the bloke on its own, the one that was the bricklayer, because he was still bricklaying probably because he was self-employed. So he wouldn't have been working for the company solely, I imagine. But yeah, I just didn't really think about it. It's a shame. But the person that really impressed me was the plasterer, because he was tall. I've always had a little thing for, wanting to be tall, really. People say, I shouldn't be this or whatever, is it body dysphoria or whatever. I really believe I should have been taller. I should have been 6'7". I mean, I weigh about the right amount to be 6'7", so I should be 6'7", not 5'8". I'm not complaining, or 5'9", depending. But I'm not moaning. I'm just saying that that's how things should be. So anyway, I went along, and he said, "No, there's no jobs." Oh. But this plasterer, he had forearms the size of my waist, which isn't true at all. But he was, because back in them days I weighed about probably 8 stone, maybe even less, because I was only 14, so it might have been 7.5 to 8 stone. It was very light, very skinny, and he was, because he was a plasterer, he was lifting his hand up high all day long, even because he didn't need a ladder, because he was so tall, so he could reach the top of the ceiling for most ceilings by stretching up. And I mean, he could literally, those big massive halls where normally they have to have scaffolding up, he could just tiptoe and he could reach the top. It's amazing. It's like 30 foot and he could just about get it. Yeah, done it. And he was a firefighter part-time, which was also good because when he was on shift, they didn't need ladders. He didn't need a ladder, and if the others needed a ladder, they just climb up his back. That's a visual, isn't it? Blimey. And he had an emergency where he had to run off to the fire department because he was basically on call. A part-time fireman and full-time plasterer. I haven't met, well, back then, I hadn't met many people that impressed me as people. He's one of the people that impressed me. I think out of all the people that I'd met, probably during that period between 7 and leaving school, the only people that impressed me that I remember outside of movie stars and people that I've never met, so people that I've met that impressed me would be, there was 2 teachers at school that I liked. No, 3. The first 2 were my RE teachers, so that's religious education. The first one, he retired and another lady took over, and she was Indian, and she was just nice to me. The bloke was nice to me as well, and they made it interesting. The first man, I think I had him for the first 2 years. He gave me what was it? Moses and the Technicolor raincoat. He gave me that recording. Just let me take it home. He did a copy for me. And I was going through my little phase of really quite a deep phase of reading the New Testament, like full on all the time. And I think he possibly saw that I was going through a bit of a thing, and so he was quite nice, because I got the New Testament from school. It was the Gideon's Bible, little red one, and they handed them out to everyone in assembly. And my dad was about to have a big oration, and I lent very heavily on that book at that time, really, but at the same time I think I might have been going through a bit of an episode which maybe distorted things a bit. But so he was really nice. Then he retired. The lady took over. She had a really good way of explaining the different religions by using analogies from movies, which I liked. And I just took a liking to her. I liked her. Now, I wasn't known for being particularly friendly to teachers. I was just a bit rude. I was kind of, for most of my high school, is if you leave me alone, I'll leave you alone. But if you hassle me, I'll cause chaos. That was a little bit, not bad, but just, I was a bit cheeky and stuff. But them two teachers were lovely, so I didn't give them a hard time. And I suppose I didn't get involved with the lesson because nothing that happened in school really interested me a huge amount. But I had respect for the teachers. And I remember, I think my RE teacher said something to me like I could do a lot better if I tried, if I put some effort in. And I just didn't care. I didn't care what she was, it's not that I didn't care what she was saying, but I just didn't care about having exams or getting results or anything like that. Didn't interest me. And she knew it, and I think she's thought there's a bit more to me than I kind of gave myself credit for, I think, which was nice that she said that. It's kind of the opposite to what some teachers say, isn't it? Like, you'll never amount to anything, and look at me now. No, don't look at me now, because you're right. And the only other teacher that I really liked was Mr. Matthews, who's my maths teacher. Massive big old beard. I wonder if he's probably, I don't mean this horribly, but he's probably not around anymore. Just because, mind you, he might not have been as old as he looked. You see what I mean? Just because he's... Yeah. All I know, is he was lovely to me. And he was the only teacher that really, in high school, this is the only teacher that really tried to help me with an academic subject. Now, I don't class RE as an academic subject because it was quite easy. It wasn't hard because I was brought up, I lived with Catholic nuns for a couple of years, so going to church twice a day, I knew my way around religion a little bit, so it wasn't really a shock. And learning about different religions was mildly interesting. Buddhism was the only one that I really found interesting, other than Christianity. But it was all right. But it wasn't. I didn't class it as academic in the same way as something like maths or science or geography or. And mathematics was not my thing. Anyway, what happened is this is the first year of high school, and they put me in the middle of the grade. So there was Osprey, OSPREY, O was the top, Y was the bottom. Not really a nice way to do it, personally, but I was in R, OSPR, so I was kind of middle, or middle bottom. Bottom middle, OSPR. My best friend was in P. I was in R. And I think, yeah. So, and then you got EY. Y was the lowest one. I was good friends with the people in Y. So what happened basically is, I guess they did the English test in junior school, and I was quite good at English. I would say fairly articulate and a good reader. I used to read a lot. And whatever the exam or test I had to do before going to high school, I must have got an okay grade because I was put in the middle. After a few months of being in high school, I think they got together and realised they'd made a mistake with me. A partial mistake. So, with lessons like sports, it didn't matter. Everyone was doing the same thing. PE, it didn't matter what class you was in. Pretty much everyone was getting together from all the different classes. Woodwork or metalwork, it made no difference, really, at that level, in the first year. And then science, because I'd never done science before, they didn't know where I stood with science. So they just left me in that class for science. And geography, never done geography before, left me in that class. Never done RE before, so left me in the class for that. English, I was okay at English. I've talked about my English experience, and I was very enthusiastic about English for the first couple of weeks. And then I had to asked to do an assignment, homework, did it, and then got shot down. And that was it. For me, I gave up then. But I didn't give up reading. I loved reading. All the way through my childhood and adulthood. Loved reading. And then, which means I've got to get some glasses next year, because I can't read with these glasses. But that's the thing. Next, hopefully January, hopefully by spring I can get some new glasses. That would be nice. And I'm going to start trying to get myself back into reading. I do read, I read off the computer and stuff. But like an actual book. And so I was left with maths. And I was really low level. It's kind of low as it's possible to get. And even though it's Mr. Johnson, not Mr. Matthews, Mr. Johnson. It was Mr. Johnson. I don't know why I'm getting excited about this. It was why did I say Matthews? Mr. Johnson. I'm just looking it up to see. Mr. Johnson. 1981. Big old beard. If I put beardy, do you reckon that will beard? Search for your school here. My old school photos. Really? How do I get old school records online in the UK? If your forebear was a teacher, unfortunately TNA does not have any records. You know what? I did that. I went to the high school, 1996. The school was still there. And I said, have you got any records of my time here? Like just maybe just notes from the teachers, stuff I brought home, exam results, things like that. And the person at reception said, no, I don't. So, it's been like 10 years since I left school at this point. I said, what do you mean? He said, we burnt it all. I said, well, but everyone's stuff. She said, no, just yours. We remembered you. And we didn't like what you did. No, she didn't say that. They burn all the records. How rude. I mean, can you imagine if throughout history people were just destroying all the records of everything that's happened? We wouldn't know anything that's happened in the past, would we? Absolutely ridiculous. I'm just A, B, C, D, A, B, C. That's going to really... Anyway, the teacher was called Mr. Johnson. Big old beard. He actually took time to sit next to me and show me how to do the maths. It was very, I'm not saying he went into a super detail, because there was a lot of other kids there. But I felt like I was acknowledgement. I wasn't being ignored, and I don't know what it was, but he was lovely. And he got ill and he left. I'm not quite sure what happened, but he left. And I'm pretty sure I saw him on a park bench in a town drinking out of a vodka bottle or something, but it might have been someone else. But I really liked him. He's a lovely bloke, lovely bloke. And it's people like him that can... So I was never a big fan of teachers, generally, at school. Before I went to high school I was, because the junior school, primary school, whatever you want to call it, they were all nice teachers. High school, not so much. My auntie was a substitute teacher at my school. Can you believe it? That was a weird day, walking into school and seeing her the other side of the corridor. Apparently she was also a substitute teacher at my brother's school as well, because we both went to different high schools. And we was at the dinner table at home, and my auntie was having a go at him for calling her auntie. But you are my auntie. Not at school, I'm not. You call me Mrs. Fishfinger, like everybody else. I don't know what her surname was. She was married. I know what her original surname was before she got married. But, because she's my auntie, I'd know that, wouldn't I? Yeah. Was not in here. Maybe it's America. Maybe preparation school. What's that about? See, my school is now... My old high school is now closed. It's now some kind of college thing. And it was there for a long time before I went there. And I'd love to go and have a look around. Just have a look. Because the way the building was put together, I'm pretty certain that unless they've put extensions up or rebuilt part of it, it's going to be pretty much the same. The rooms might be different, but it was a nice outlay. I'll give you that. The kind of the roundness of it, and 2 floors, and yeah, it was good. Big old field in the back. Yeah, I didn't mind the school. I just didn't like it. Other than that, right, 70,000 UK schools, but my one isn't there. I mean, what's the chances? D-E-B, D-E-E-E-E-A, but it's not there. That's just unnecessary. Anyway, oh yeah, so then what they did is they put me into a remedial class, or they called it a dunces class, that's what it was called. And it was basically at the end of the hallway, this big room that had games in there, board games, toys, like for kids, for little kids. And we were all like 11, 12 years old. Because some of the kids turned 12, I was still 11. I'd only just turned 11 in August. Went to high school in September. And some people were turning 12 in like October. You know, so I had a lot of kids that were like nearly a year older than me in my year, which is a lot at that age. So I was put into that room. I was literally taken out of the maths class because I had a substitute teacher, and then I was taken out, put into this room with these kids that I didn't know really who they were, because it happened quite quick. Because I think the teacher was only there for about half a term, Mr. Matthews or Johnson or whatever, maybe half a term. So it was only for a few weeks, maybe, or maybe a term, maybe up to Christmas. And then I was in this room for the dances class, and I was with pretty much any kid that was causing problems, chaotic, anyone that was being rude to the teachers, anyone that refused to do anything, that refused to do any work. I was in there. I was in that category, and would be in there for I think 2 or 3 times a week. So I got to be friends with all the tough kids that were like unruly, and I didn't really class myself as being unruly, but I did, I suppose I did do a few. I was a little bit naughty sometimes, but. So I was put into this classroom with all these naughty kids, and it was called the dances class, basically. That was what it was known as. But I made friendships that lasted the rest of school. But also in the first year, I also made friends with kids that were way more intelligent than me, that went on and they were put up. So because what happened is everyone stayed in the same RA whatever, but they got put up for the different lessons. So if they were an O for Osprey, if they were a high level of English or maths, they would go into a different class, start moving them around to suit what they did, what they were good at. I stayed in R for all my lessons except maths. And I was in the dances class for at least a year, I think. And then I got taken and put into another class. And this teacher tried to teach us, and it didn't work. I didn't do anything, I just sat there. And eventually, they just ignored me. As long as I wasn't too kind of obstructive. But it's a shame, really. But it was quite good being in a dances class, because we got to have fun. Got to have a laugh. We used to get married and stuff. Not married. The boys would marry the girls, and we just play fight or whatever. Just basically just have a laugh. And it was I quite liked it. That's probably my favourite subject, really, being a dunce. There's a bit of background sound with some noise or some music. Hope you can't hear it. So what have we got there? Fortunes of War, Take Me Home, Early Development, don't know that one. The New Statesman. I love The New Statesman. That was Rick Mell. So funny. So fun. There was one scene, he basically is a politician, but he's an absolute arse, basically. And he says to his wife, he says, "Oh, I've hidden a present in the garden." And she runs out all excited. And so he gets on the phone because he has to do some secret conversation. And he finishes the conversation. She comes in. He said, "I can't find it. Can't find the present." And he said, "Oh, no, I lied." It was just I can't. I'm not doing it justice. It was just funny. Channel 4, Friday Night Live, spin-off from Saturday Live, debuts 1987. Yep, that was just a similar thing to the one previous. I don't know. I'm not sure because I get muddled up between which one Ben Elton hosted and which one Jonathan Ross hosted. But it was a lot. Basically, it's comedy anyway. A bit of Fry and Laurie. So Fry and Laurie is a double act. If you don't know who Fry and Laurie is, Stephen, they're huge names in this country. So Stephen Fry is a huge name. He's an author, comedian, all kinds of stuff. Hugh Laurie, the medical drama, what's his name? It's gone out of my head. But you know, the medic, well, he's a doctor. So that he became like a big star doing that. But he was already a big star here. They were both in also in the Blackadder TV shows. The Last Resort. I'm sure that was Jonathan Ross. The Last Resort. That was on a Friday night, and it was basically the closest thing we had at the time, or was a Saturday night. The closest thing we had at the time to an American style late night chat show, and Jonathan Ross was hosting it, and it was kind of the first one really. I mean, you could say Clive Anderson, but really the way it was put together, it's very much like whoever's doing it now, but yeah, the Late Show, is it the Late Show? Number 73 replacements, Youth TV evolving quickly on Channel 4. I don't know what that was. So that's all new stuff. You've got the key continuing UK series, Only Fools and Horses. So there was a Christmas special, The Frog's Legacy. I need to find the Christmas specials for Only Fools and Horses and watch them this week, just for the build up to Christmas. That'll make me feel nice. Yes, Prime Minister continued. Hello, hello. Never really bothered by that. Heidi High. Final series. Ever Decreasing Circles. I liked it. I just liked it. It was something about that. It felt nice. It was a nice, warm sitcom. Yeah. Just did. Spitting Image. Still hugely influential. Yep. I liked that. It made me laugh. Russ Abbott's Madhouse. Two Ronnies, Game for a Laugh. See, Game for a Laugh was huge in the early 80s. Huge. on a Saturday night, and then it kind of dwindled out a little bit. Drama and soaps, EastEnders, huge in that year. And then Coronation Street, Emmerdale Farm, Brookside, Casualty, The Bill, Bergerac, Howard's Way, Minder. It was the late Arthur Daly era, so this was, I think, yeah, it was still, they hadn't changed over to his nephew yet. Dempsey and Makepeace was a final series. Oh, it was 1986, so it just repeats. Children's television, 1987, Grange Hill. Peak years for many viewers. Not for me. I was 18 when I was 17 then, 16, 17. My peak year for Grange Hill was probably about 84, 83, 82. Blue Peter, Play School, Play Bus, Postman Pat, Henry's Cat, The Really Wild Show, Jigsaw. I don't remember any. I wasn't really watching children's shows at that point, apart from Danger Mouse. I loved Danger Mouse, but I would watch them with my little brother. Super Gran, Raggy Dolls, Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends. I mean, that was always aimed at really little kids, wasn't it, that show? The Sooty Show, Button Moon, Channel 4, Bob Hobbs Programme, unsettling but memorable preschool show. I need to look that up. The Chart Show, musical video culture begins to take hold. That was a Channel 4. So I would have watched that, 100%. Any kind of music chart show I'd watch. Music and youth culture, Top of the Pops, still dominant. The music, Stockake and the Waterman, it was non-stop. 1987, 1988, 1989. It was Sunita. It was Never Gonna Give You Up. It was Kylie Minogue. It was Jason Donovan. Pretty much anyone from an Australian soap opera was in the charts. It was, I think, Bananarama. I don't know if they was with them as well. It really, Rick Cassidy, of course. It was just, they ruled the airwaves. The Tube final year ended. I used to watch the Tube sometimes, but not really my thing. It's probably a little bit too adult for me when it was on. The Chart Show, growing influence on youth viewing. I think what it is they played live music on the Tube, and if I listen to that, some people listen to a singer and they'll be like, oh, it's amazing, they did a different version of that song and it didn't even sound anything like the original version. Well, what's the point then? It's not the same song then, is it? Even if it's the same lyrics, if it's sung differently, it's not the same song. I want the song to sound the same, with something added, maybe. I don't necessarily expect it to sound identical for something that was recorded in a studio, but I want it to sound recognisable. Blimey. Oh, it was so good, I didn't even know who was singing. But what's the point in paying for tickets then? News and current affairs, 6 o'clock news, BBC One, 9 o'clock news, BBC One, which is basically just a complete repeat of the 6 o'clock news, unless something had happened between 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock. So what you'd get is still a live broadcaster, but same stories, and they'd just be showing the same clips that they showed at 6 o'clock. Newsnight, BBC Two, never used to really watch that. Panorama, sorry. ITV News at 10. Sometimes I'd watch it. Channel 4 News, firmly established voice. Okay, that's been on at 7 o'clock for forever now, since it started, I think. Channel 4 News, 7 o'clock, Monday to Friday. Sport on TV in 1987, Match of the Day, Grandstand, FA Cup Final, Wimbledon, cricket and Formula One. Snooker remains popular post-Davis era. Nothing there that I would have watched in 1987. Major imports shown in the UK in 1987. So American drama action, MacGyver. That was a huge success in 87. Miami Vice. I loved that show. It was the classiest show I think I've ever seen in my life. It's like, I want to be both of them. That was, everybody was cool. Even the criminals were cool and dressed fashionably. And the music, everything. It was a great show. The A-Team, I mean, that was coming probably near the end of its run, I reckon, in that time. The Knight Rider, Magnum P.I. again, they'd been around for quite a while. Hill Street Blues. I didn't get to appreciate Hill Street Blues the way that I wish I had, because that was a great TV show. LA Law, UK screenings began late 1987. I don't even remember watching it. Oh, Moonlighting. Big UK hit by 87. That was a big, massive hit. Massive. Some light by night, some light by day. Absolutely huge. But it was on during the week. They put it on a Tuesday, I do believe. I loved it. I used to watch. That's weird. When did I watch it? 86, 87? I'm sure it was on in 86 because I watched it 86. I remember watching it, that and also Miami Vice in my step-grandmother's flat with my stepmum. I remember watching Moonlight and Miami Vice. Possibly on the same night. And that was 1986. Or maybe right at the beginning of 87. Comedy imports, Cheers, The Golden Girls, The Cosby Show. Now, all three I loved. See, Channel 4 had a thing where every Friday night, I'm not sure if they still do it because I don't really watch much TV nowadays, but nowadays, between 9 and 10, there'd be two comedy shows, whether it's The Golden Girls, then Cheers, or Roseanne, then The Golden Girls, or I'm trying to think. There's quite a few different ones that used to be on. I mean, the ones that I think of really, Roseanne and The Golden Girls and Cheers and Ellen? No, Ellen was the 90s, wasn't it? Ellen. And I think that might have been BBC Two. That was a great show as well. I like that. The wind's getting up. It's rattling the doors. So you've got children's imports, Transformers, He-Man, She-Ra. Did they conglomerate them together? Because they were two different shows, weren't they? Was She-Ra He-Man's boyfriend? I don't know. Inspector Gadget, The Smurfs, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That became huge as well. I remember that. Wow. Gentle talking points for your episode. Wogan becomes nightly comfort viewing, very wind down TV. Yeah, but it's on at 7, so it's what I suppose wind down after a day at work. Yeah, I suppose. US imports feel normal now, no longer special events. I never really class US imports as being special events because really, like my TV era for me was like late 70s onwards. And there was loads of American TV shows. Basically, the best TV shows that I remember at the time were American. So the late 70s, Mork and Mindy, The Bionic Man, Kung Fu, The Incredible Hulk, Wonder Woman, Charlie's Angels. It's, maybe Magnum was on then. Like, there's so many. And then the early 80s, the A-Team, Knight Rider, all those kind of shows that came along, Dallas, Dynasty. I'm trying to think of more American shows. Chips. It's like so many. So to me, I was kind of used to having American shows because to me they were the best. I loved them. I loved the English shows as well, but I just, as far as excitement happened, colourful excitement, action, America was ahead of the UK for that. But we were really good, provided, made really good dramas, comedy, stuff like that. So it's just, as I'm sure did America as well, but we all missed out in a way because there's so much English stuff that America never got to see and so much American stuff that England never got to see. And it's probably the same with stuff from Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and any other English-speaking country where, it could be... But it's not even that even. I think the funniest movie, one of the funniest movies I ever saw was a French movie, and it was dubbed. And it was hilarious. I mean, one bit was, there was this bloke, he had a leak. I don't know if it was in a kitchen or something, and he had a leak in the ceiling, and there was a tin bucket, and he had all these tin buckets all over the place, and one was full, so he picked it up and just emptied it on the floor. That's hilarious. That's just and then puts it back down to collect the water. It's just one of the funniest things I've ever seen. And I saw that in 1994 or 1993 at the end of the year. Because I had a girlfriend at the time, so I remember. Because I think she let me touch her knee. Ooh. So, on that note, Vinny's giving me hassle, so I think he might want his dinner. Are you hungry? Do you want your num-nums? Do you want your num-nums? Do you want your num-nums? Yeah? Oh, mind your head. Just banged his head on the table. So I'm going to go. Thank you for listening. Remember to be kind to yourself because you deserve to be happy. Be gentle with yourself. You deserve to feel safe. And Q&A Friday is here tomorrow. I may also do another sleep hypnosis recording as well. Thanks, Vinny. And remember, you are enough. You already are enough, and you're going to be okay. Lots of love. And Vinny says hi, bye with his flappy ears. Lots of love. Bye.